This episode,
we examine some lunar doubling up.
There are questions to be answered in the Randomiser.
and I spend 30 minutes with the Prime Minister. Well, sort of.
That's all coming up in Pod 89
Of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
My name's Boris Johnson. You're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast, presented by Richard James and Jamie Anderson. No ifs, no buts. Listen to this. It's oven ready. And, let's get this podcast done.
How's that for a special guest?
Where? Do you want to explain what's happened?
Only that I
maybe?
have friends in high places, Jamie.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like to talk about it, but I've got links to number 10.
Have you?
Oh, yeah, I've got a tunnel that goes directly out from my kitchen into Downing Street.
Is that number 10 Cookham High Street?
That's the one, yeah, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
Well, I spent half an hour with the Prime Minister at the Theatre Royal Windsor this week.
What was he doing there?
Well, he was performing in a play, The Last Temptation of Boris Johnson. Actually, all right, I'll fess up. It was Will Barton, Space Precinct actor, in the role of Boris Johnson, and he very kindly took half an hour out of his schedule to have a chat with me about Space Precinct. We'll be hearing that a little later on.
Oh, thanks, Will. So that's the interview.
It is.
We haven't introduced ourselves.
No, why should we?
Well, because somebody might not know who you are, Richard James.
Well, I think it's more than likely, and they may scratch their heads and wonder who you are, Jamie Anderson.
Well, at least they know for sure they're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast, and that's all that really matters.
That's true.
Where every week we have an interview, and this week is Will Barton, like Richard's just said, but there's
Yes.
other stuff too,
Always.
which includes...
Yes, well, we've got the Randomiser coming up later on, of course, from Chris Dale, whereby he sits down in front of a random Gerry Anderson episode and gives us his thoughts and comments as he watches. We've got a bumper crop of emails this week, Jamie, that were sent into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Oh, good. I love our bumper crops of emails.
I'll also be reading out some tweets and some Facebook posts from our Facebook group. Of course, we've got Gerry Anderson News, because there is always interesting stuff happening in the Gerry Anderson universe. And I think that's probably about it, isn't it? Yeah.
I think you're probably right.
All wrapped up, about an hour and a half, and then we'll say goodbye and leave you to your week.
Yes, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And there's loads more exciting interviews to come in the next few weeks.
Yes.
I've got some rather cool ones I'm doing over the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks. You've told me about another one which sounds quite fun.
That's right.
As usual, Podsterons, that's our name for you, our lovely listeners. If you're a first timer to the Gerry Anderson Podcast, then do email your suggestions for interviewees to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk or join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons. Make sure you answer the 3 questions, though, because otherwise Richard James will not let you in.
No, that's true. I'm standing by, ready to approve new entrants to the Gerry Anderson Podcast Facebook group.
Of which there have been many recently.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, I should just say on that note, if you do suggest potential interviewees, we do try, and sometimes they say no, and sometimes they say no repeatedly, so don't get too impatient with us if you keep suggesting the same name, and nothing happens. We are trying.
Sometimes they take out restraining orders,
They do.
as has happened.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry about
apologies
that.
if we can't get the person you're after. We do try.
Yeah.
I think we should start this podcast off with a fact.
Oh?
Ideally a fab one. Do you
Well-
think that sounds okay?
Have you got one to hand?
Well, we will do in a minute when you choose this week's fab fact.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
I mean,
As usual.
Yeah, amazing.
It's fab facts. I feel like you weren't expecting that to be so succinct.
No, well, you did spring it upon me rather, didn't you?
What, like as if you've never had one before?
So now you're going to give us the facts about Fab Facts, aren't you, in your long, usual, convoluted way, and tell us that you're going to flip through a book containing many facts from the Gerry Anderson universe. I'm going to shout Fab, and when I've shouted Fab, you will stop on said page and read out said fact from said book. Is that right?
That is exactly what I'm going to do, but I've just misplaced my book of fab facts, so just fill the airways for a minute while I go and get it. 2 seconds.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm actually going to read out an email, because this is rather nice. Oh no, okay, he's back.
This is the problem when you tidy your office. And
Yeah, put things away, yeah.
Anyway, so here is the book of fab facts, which I've now found.
Yes.
I'm going to flick through it. You want to shout Fab, and
Well, I
off
told
we go.
them all that, Jamie.
Oh, sorry, I just get so excited about it. Here we go.
Fab.
Richard, we've landed in 1976.
Wow, that is a long time ago.
It is. How old were you in 1976?
I was -2.
Gosh.
Oh, no,
that really is a long
1976. Sorry, I
time
got my figures the wrong way around.
Oh, and of course. Go on. How
was
old were
7.
you? Oh,
Strangely, I thought you meant 1967. That's odd, isn't it?
it is strange. No, I'm definitely talking about 1976.
Yeah.
Season 2 of Space 1999, Richard.
Okay.
It began filming in January 1976.
Right.
But it was commissioned rather late in the day. So with the first episodes needing to be ready to air for August in 1976, you know how long it takes to make a TV show?
Oh, forever.
Yeah, exactly. So they needed it for August 76 in the US and September 76 in the UK.
Right.
They had to rush through as quickly as possible. And even with rushing,
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty tight.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
A crazy number of things to be able to deliver first episodes and be ready to go. So to get around the problem, the team came up with a solution known as double up episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Were you aware of this?
No, go on.
Okay. So it was a process where they filmed 2 episodes at once. And in one episode, Martin Landau would be the star. And in the other, Barbara Bain would be. And the rest of the cast was split in 2.
Uh-huh.
So those double up episodes in question are The Rules of Luton and The Mark of Arcanum,
Right.
The AB Chrysalis and Catacombs of the Moon,
Mm-hmm.
Space Warp and A Matter of Balance,
Yeah.
and Dorzak and Devil's Planet.
I see.
So this often led to rather strange things, like characters being away from the base on pointless Eagle missions,
Yeah.
or Dr. Russell once saying she couldn't be in that episode because she had some work to do in the lab.
Great. I might use that one for the next podcast. Yeah, sorry,
okay,
Jamie.
I thought you might.
I've got a bit of work to do in the lab, so...
It's a great excuse.
It is, isn't it?
But this problem is particularly noticeable in the episode Devil's Planet, where Commander Koenig is believed to have been killed on an alien planet, so quite serious happenings.
Yes.
But nobody on Alpha is shown reacting to this grave news because Barbara Bain, Catherine Schell, Nick Tate and Tony Anholt were all busy filming the episode Dorzak at the time. So if you're ever watching a Season 2 episode of Space 1999
Yeah.
and notice that main character isn't around or only makes a quick cameo, or has been sidelined in some unnecessary and pointless and weird subplot, it's basically because the actor who played that character was filming a completely different episode at the same
I
time.
see. Wow. Okay. So that would have been both stages at Pinewood would have been for separate episodes, do you think? Because weren't they on L&M block for Space 1999 as well?
They may well have been
Gosh.
an L&M.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the only time in the Anderson universe where I know that actors are working on 2 things at the same time. The Day After Tomorrow pilot, for example, Martin Lev was working at the same time on a completely different film.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Was switching between costumes and roles and stuff.
Right.
And there are,
Yeah.
in fact, pictures of him in the Alteris in his costume from the other film.
Ah,
So,
right, yeah. Well, I remember David Quilter in Space Precinct taking the odd day off to be in Grange Hill.
Grange Hill? Was he in Grange Hill?
He played somebody's dad in Grange Hill, yes.
Somebody's
So
dad.
he was moonlighting for that whole year. Yeah.
Gosh, there you go. I mean, clearly not very seamless doubling up in Space 1999 if the
No.
commander's been killed.
Yes, and no one cares. What's that you say? Sorry, I've got some work to do in the lab.
I'm washing my hair, Richard.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's the end of some doubling up news, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that brings us to the end of this week's
Double fact. Very good. That's
what a
very
great
interesting.
one it was.
Yeah. Oh, that's no. I seem to remember doing a couple of episodes at a time, but during Space Precinct, would that not have been the case then? Is it unusual?
Could well have been the case.
Yeah, I'm sure we worked in blocks of 2 episodes. Pretty certain of that.
Yeah. Well, because you had the 2 stages, it makes
Yeah,
sense. You know,
yeah.
and the mezzanine thing on the Space
That's
Command
right.
set as well, which
Gosh.
was always so weird.
Anyway, long time ago now. Anyway, I'm going to head on over to an email that we've received, Jamie, if that's all right. It's from Pete
good.
Kemmerer. It's rather lovely. This says, Jamie and Richard, until the February the 10th podcast, I had never listened to more than a few seconds of Captain Scarlet. I'm over here in the States, and while I'm the right age to have grown up with it, the show simply wasn't broadcast here. Now, after hearing Ed Bishop in the heart of New York, what a voice he had, says Pete, I decided I was missing out. So I ordered the 50th anniversary box set download. Oh my goodness. He says, the quality of the performances and the audio restoration are incredibly good. The shows are all action-packed, timeless energy, tension and fun. Barry Gray's music is unique and perfect for the show, and Benji Clifford's sound design is spot on. I almost can't believe how much I've enjoyed listening. I now understand what all the fuss was about, and I feel like a 58-year-old kid again. Thanks for reeling me in with the free sample, and keep up the good work on the podcast. SIG, Pete Kemmerer. Isn't that great?
That is exactly why we do almost everything we do on the podcast,
Yes.
which is to allow you to access that wonderful sense of childhood awe and wonder.
That's right, and to discover something you didn't even know existed, you didn't even know was missing from your life. That's great, isn't it?
Exactly, and you kind of assume everybody who knows Gerry Anderson knows Captain Scarlet, but that's just not the case.
No, absolutely.
I mean, we've had that in recent weeks, haven't we, with people discovering the Secret Service, which you
Yes.
think everyone will be familiar with because
Yeah,
it's
that's
such a
right.
well-known and successful series.
Yeah, discovering it and loving it. Well, I have to say, that's the thing. They really are. Also, Aston got in touch to say greetings to you both. Has Richard James been watching the Brian Connolly show? Now, this is following on from, I think, last week or the weeks before FAB Fact about Captain Grey being the initial second in command. And I did suggest that Captain Puce might be a character, because apparently in the Brian Connolly show, says Aston, Brian took the mickey out of Captain Scarlet by calling him Captain Puce. And then he follows up by saying, incidentally, nice of Forces TV to screen both parts of Bringers of Wonder last Sunday. Take care, best wishes, Aston. Ah, that's good. And I see Forces TV are showing UFO again. As of this week, I think.
Constantly cycling that.
Yeah.
And I think Space 1999 is still on Forces and Horror.
Right.
In the UK, I believe.
Okay. And finally, Stephen Watson. Last week, of course, was our sort of Valentine's edition, wasn't it? We had Chris Dale giving us some couples from the Gerry Anderson universe. Well, Stephen Watson says, hello, gentlemen. One I would like to have seen would have been between Paul Foster and Captain Lou Waterman. Although, of course, Paul didn't spend that much time on Skydiver. Valentine madness, Stephen Watson. There you are. Thank you, Stephen. Very good.
Stephen.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually need to go and read the Valentine's article on the website.
yes.
I think AC ended up writing it because he was
was it?
just so excited by the prospect of writing about Anderson couples.
There you go. Well, I'm sure he's been holding that in for years, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's out there now, so if you missed that and are feeling a bit romantic post-Valentine's Day, then go and read it.
Yeah.
If not, then I'm going to tell you about another article you can read in the Gerry Anderson News.
Let's hear
Which
it.
is now.
Ooh.
Gerry Anderson News, Richard.
Yes, Jamie?
Come on, say it. Say it. Quick.
News.
Thank you. That's exactly what we're about to deliver to you, dear Podsterons. Starting with a bit more of an eBay reminder.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know I've talked about it a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, but our eBay store is now full of odds and sods.
Yes.
Bits of merch that have been returned, things that never ever made it to the store, things that have been missing from the Gerry Anderson store for years.
Things you found under your bed.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is actually true.
Right.
Some things I found in a bin bag in the corner in a box. It's amazing.
Great.
So pop along there, ebay.co.uk/USR. That's S for sugar. /Anderson Entertainment.
All one word.
And if you, all one word. And if you can't find it, or the link doesn't work, then just go to the Facebook group, and there is a link posted there.
Yes.
But the latest goodies include some Captain Scarlet and the Mysteron socks, which have never been on the store. Some Thunderbirds alarm clocks. A couple of the Breakaway special edition T-shirts from last year, which are no longer available. So if you missed that, there's a great opportunity. And lots more besides. So go and look at those.
Great.
On the Gerry Anderson store, in the new section,
Yes.
well, you know Doppelganger.
Of course.
Well, Eurosec being the space agency
Yeah. I knew that.
in Doppelganger. Obviously, you know that.
Yeah.
In fact, you've probably got a load of Eurosec wear yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But there's some Eurosec stuff available from the Gerry Anderson store, as well as the Eagle One collection.
Okay.
But possibly more excitingly, certainly for fans of early Gerry Anderson shows,
Oh, yes.
very early, I should say,
Oh.
it's the 60th anniversary of Four Feather Falls.
Is it?
Its first broadcast.
Right.
So the 25th of February.
Uh-huh.
It's 60 years since Four Feather Falls was first shown. And to celebrate, we are doing a very limited edition Four Feather Falls t-shirt.
Ah, nice.
Obviously designed by Chris Thompson.
Of course.
Who else would it be?
Yeah.
Featuring the hat and the four feathers. So grab that. It'll be available this week only
Lovely.
for a few days after the 25th. And maybe you want to go back and re-watch some good old puppet western fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very twee.
Yes, it is.
Quite cute, but great for sort of switching off and relaxing.
Yes, exactly.
So enjoy that.
With the great Nicholas Parsons, of course.
With the late, great Nicholas Parsons, yes. In fact, so many Anderson stalwarts in there. David Graham, Denise Bryan, Kenneth Connor, and I'm sure Alan Patillo started work on Fall for the Falls.
Right.
Passed away recently. So, good time to go and watch that.
Yeah.
And if you like to do some reading about characters that went AWOL in the Gerry Anderson universe, I think I hinted at this last time.
Yes.
But Chris has done an analysis of characters who appeared in early episodes and then suddenly disappeared.
Yeah.
And obviously, Richard, you know about one of those, don't
I
you?
certainly do, yes. I worked with him for all of 6 weeks.
Yeah, so Beazle in Space Precinct makes that list. What happened to him? Chris analyses and speculates there, so have a good look.
Yep.
And I think that's probably it. Richard, I do believe you might have a short story available for your book series, is that right?
Yes, I do. The Camden Kidnappings, the latest short story from Bowman's Casebook in my Bowman of the Yard series, yeah. Oh, head on over to bowmanoftheyard.co.uk and sign up for my newsletter and you'll get it along with all the other short stories for free.
There you go.
Yeah, 5 in all.
It's not really Gerry Anderson news, but
it's me
your
news.
Gerry Anderson news.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I feel we should also point out and take time to mark the fact that John Shrapnel died this week, an actor who I think has an association with the Gerry Anderson universe, in that he was in an episode of Space 1999. That's right. Yeah. Opposite Brian Blessed, of all people. So if he held his own against Brian Blessed, then he can't be all bad. But a great theatre actor, big theatre name as well, sadly died this week too, John Shrapnel.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's going to keep happening, sadly, as we always say. But nice you can go back and watch that. So if you're not going to watch Fall for the Falls this week, go back and watch that episode of Space 1999.
Yeah, watch them both.
Right. Oh, yes, what a great combination.
Isn't it?
Fall for the Falls 1999. That is now the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. That was the news. Now, this particular email caught my eye, Jamie, only because it starts with the repeated phrase in block capital letters, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
It was a personal message to you, was it?
To what is Ian Thompson referring, I wonder? Well, he says, more please, absolutely loved it. Listening to it took me back to the mini albums that my dad bought me, one of which was the opening episode of Captain Scarlet with the iconic line from Captain Blue in the showdown with Captain Scarlet on top of the car park in an almost Western movie setting. Okay, Captain Scarlet is either going to be you or me. Almost Gary Cooper-esque. He says, brilliant, thanks guys, more, Ian Thompson. There. So obviously referring there to the little Captain Scarlet special that we had, was it the last pod, I think, wasn't it?
Last two pods we've had Captain Scarlet stuff. Yeah. So yes, I'm so glad that's transported people back to Nostalgia Central.
Absolutely. Nice, isn't it? Yeah, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Now I should just say, please do subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. If you could leave us a nice review and a lovely rating, that would be fantastic as well. And also share it with your friends so they get to hear us too. And I think, Jamie, will be picking out a review a bit later on, won't we? That someone has left. For them to receive something of a little prize, a little something in the post.
A little goodie, yes.
Yeah.
We'll do that at the end.
Great.
Just remind me, I might forget.
Exactly, so might I. I'll remind you to remind me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is that it for Podsteron emails?
Well, I've got a really lovely story from Willow, if you want to hear this.
Oh,
now,
yes.
Well, we often talk, don't we, about how the Gerry Anderson universe brings families together. We love the fact that grandparents watch it with their grandchildren and their mums and dads watch it with their kids and so on. Well, Willow left this rather lovely story on the Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Podsterons, and with her permission, I thought I'd read it out for you now. So she says this: in response to the question in Pod 88 of watching Gerry Anderson, I can't remember when I first saw an episode because it always seemed to be in my life. Mum loved it, and as soon as the Channel 5 videos came out, Mum bought them all. So I was always watching them, and I went through the 90s revival very happily. But one of my memories of watching Gerry Anderson on television isn't that long ago. It would have been August 2005 in the summer holiday, and my beloved granddad had just passed away. My daughter was about 3 at the time, and we were staying with my nan for the first week of her being on her own in 61 years, until Mum got back from holiday. My child was restless, we were all upset and needed to take our minds off things. Nan and Grandad didn't have the Sky TV that was used for the children's channels. We just got kids' TV on terrestrial, some extras on BBC Two and so on. So I turned the TV on, and there was Stingray. And I just sank down into Grandad's chair, silently cried for the whole episode, kid on my lap while she watched with me, because in a world that suddenly didn't have my rock in it, there was my other rock, my one constant, my comfort, and I really needed it at that moment. We watched every morning, Nan talking about watching with Grandad and Mum back in the 60s. Nan, who never put the radio on again after we lost Grandad, humming along to Aquamarina. Nan telling me the story of how Grandad worked overtime at his second job for a week just to buy her a pair of tights, and Mum the Fireball XL5 record, and it created even more memories. I still miss them both, more than words can describe, but I have Nan's Virgil that I bought her for Christmas. He lived on her dressing table so she could look at him at night and be reminded of me and Mum, because he was so handsome. I have my annuals that Grandad kept very carefully. I have my memories of a childhood and life that has always had Anderson in it, and the fact that I will always have that, plus the fact that it continues to bring great things into my life like new friends, new laughs and new memories, is something I'd never give up for the world. Now, isn't that lovely?
That is lovely. How can we possibly top that?
Exactly. Yeah. So there we are. I'm just going to leave that there. Not even comment on that, because that's just a thing of beauty in itself. Thank you so much, Willow. It chimes with a lot of what we are all about here on the podcast, and I know on the Facebook group as well. So thanks for that.
Lovely.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think we can possibly top that, but maybe, just maybe, our interviewee this week might be able to, maybe equal it, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe. So,
so how did this happen?
Well, now, a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that there was a play coming very near me to the Theatre Royal in Windsor called The Last Temptation of Boris Johnson. And in the title role, no less, was someone called Will Barton. Now, Will played several roles in Space Precinct, but he was only there for a little while. He joined us, I think he said he was only there for 15 or 16 weeks later on in the filming. But he had a few memories that he felt he could share with us, together with his time in the last ever Sylvester McCoy Doctor Who story, Survival, on the BBC. So he gave us a couple of stories about that as well. So I met Will in his dressing room before curtain up of the one of the last performances at the Theatre Royal in Windsor of The Last Temptation of Boris Johnson, and I have to say, he introduced me to the Prime Minister himself. Well, here I am in somewhere rather special, actually, in the number one dressing room, no less, of the Theatre Royal in Windsor. And who's this sitting next to me?
Actually, it's Boris Johnson. You know, I've invited you, Richard, to come to my dressing room and to talk about Space Precinct, which I'm an absolute fan. I used to watch it. I'm sharing this dressing room with Will Barton, who's playing me. He was absolutely in Space Precinct, and I thought this was number one dressing room as well. I got a key, I took number one dressing room. It's dressing room left. I'm furious, absolutely furious.
Well, Prime Minister, I should just say what a coup it is to have the great Boris Johnson with us for the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Absolutely. But I'm going to pass you over to Will Barton, who's actually playing me at the Windsor Theatre Royal. I think you're doing quite a good job, Will.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, Boris.
Thank you, Boris. Off you go now. Or, if you need me at all, I'll just be outside. And, I'd like to do the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Boris. Thanks for coming. Crikey, well, he's a gregarious sort, isn't he? Now, Will, thanks for
that's nice. I just thought I'd introduce you to Boris because he's. I'm playing him after all.
It's only right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I've interviewed anyone actually in their dressing room just prior to a performance. So tell us, why are you here this evening? What are you about to do?
Well, I'm about to play Boris Johnson in the theatre. Yeah, in The Last Temptation of Boris Johnson, which is a comedy. Yeah. We can start with going. It's a really great piece of theatre about ambition and about society and reflecting. No, it's a comedy. It's a comedy. We've got Tony Blair in it. Well, not the real Tony Blair. Mm-hmm. We've got Tim Wallace playing Tony Blair, Hugh Edwards, Dead Ringers impersonations, Emma Davis, who plays Margaret Thatcher, Sarah Vine, who writes the Daily Mail. We've got Michael Gove, played by Bill Champion. We've got Winston Churchill, played by Bill Champion. And we've got Claire Litchi. I don't know why I'm giving these names because, none of us are household names. But if you mention one, you've got to mention them all. And so Claire is playing various wives and girlfriends.
Yes, that's true. Well, I think it is interesting because what will certainly be of interest to our listeners is the kind of where are they now thing. We did Space Precinct many, many years ago, and I'm sure people will be very interested to know that you're out there doing different stuff, as we all are still, over 25 years later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we bump into each other occasionally on various auditions and so on, don't we, over the years?
Every now and then,
But if you can cast your mind back, do you remember when Space Precinct first reared its head? Do you remember the call from your agent? Do you remember your audition? Did you audition? How did that work?
I remember the call I had. It wasn't from my agent. It was from Andy Dawson.
Ah, yes.
He of Thunderbirds fame, the live show. And he said, listen, because I knew him, he lived locally. And he said, Will, listen, I'm on this thing called Space Precinct, Gerry Anderson. The money's, it's like a small lottery win every week. Yeah. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, okay. Of course.
Yeah. He said, but I'm going off to do my show, with Gavin.
That's right.
And with Gavin. Yeah, and would you be prepared to replace me? Rebecca Howard was the casting director. She's happy if I'm happy.
And did it mean anything to you at all? Had you heard of the series, or did you know what Andy was doing?
I'd not heard anything about it, but I always enjoyed Thunderbirds as a kid. Sunday afternoons, perfect. After Sunday dinner.
So certainly the name Gerry Anderson.
Immediately, yeah. But anyway, so I said, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
It was as easy as that. So I had the best paid job I'd ever had.
And you kind of walked into it.
But
I'm sure it wasn't quite that easy, because I remember, as part of my audition process, was the whole live cast thing where they cover your face in glue to get a mould of your head. I'm sure. Did you go through that?
Yes, I'd forgotten that. I was taking that. But they took me down to do that.
Whereabouts?
Without an audition at Pinewood on set. And weirdly enough, the guy that did it ended up becoming my next door neighbour.
Do you remember a name?
I can't remember his name. He's lived there with his girlfriend, and it was in Fern Park Mansions in Crouch End, and they had their very next flat. And my little boy I made friends with him, and I don't know where they are now. And my little Bryn, once they moved in, this was a few years after that, used to go out my kitchen door, because it was all communal garden with a little path along the back of his old mansion, ground floor flat. Because he'd asked for certain Thunderbirds things and other stuff. He would just walk in. I'd see my 3-year-old just walking into the house. I said, you can't walk in. But they'd always find they gave him a Spider-Man, a 70s video to watch, which Bryn loved.
I wonder who that was.
It was, I think, my goodness, but I can't remember. He had dark hair.
Yes.
I can't remember his name. Bit London. But
had you, prior to that point, done anything like it before? Had you been through the sort of prosthetic process before, played any kind of strange creatures in your career up until that point, or was it all very new to you?
My first TV job in 1989 was Doctor Who, and I played Midge, and I had to have yellow contacts for that.
Do you remember the story title?
Yes, Survival.
Which was Sylvester McCoy's final story.
One, the last ever 3 episodes.
Right.
In fact, I think I was the last baddie to die.
Okay.
Or sort of partial baddie. He was a misguided kid from Paravel who wanted to fight on this planet. But as you fight, you start getting fangs and turning into these very hilarious-looking cat people.
Don't be a fool! Oh, damn it! Get off! Stop it! No!
He's gonna get us all killed unless someone sorts him out.
Sorts him out?
Yeah.
Where did you get this?
I killed it.
And then someone didn't just give me the weapon, eh?
Midge!
It's not too late to go home.
Home?
Better follow him.
And what do you remember of that whole time then, working on Doctor Who? What was that like for you?
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I was actually in a cooperative agency at the time, which is run by actors, and I took the call, so I got the job.
Right. Okay. So you put yourself up for the job.
Well, someone else did, yeah. And then I met Alan Waring. I met him once before when I'd written to him personally. In those days, you could write to people personally. There were no casting directors at the BBC. You could get, nowadays it would not have happened.
No.
I would not have got that job. That job would not have happened.
No.
And they'd asked me if I did something called slamming. And that's a type of dance they did in the 80s. And I hadn't done it, but I said, but I'm sure I could slam in my sleep. It didn't happen.
No, okay.
So then Doctor Who came along. So, and then he gave me the part. He got me down to audition. And I remember I had my sunglasses. I remember taking them off. I wore them for the audition and the BBC and used them. And don't move.
Now, and famously, if you get a part in Doctor Who, people don't let you forget it, do they? Do you still get correspondence, fan mail, invitations to conventions?
I've done a few conventions. They come and go, and then you're off the list, and then you're back on it when you do a couple. But I've had people stop me in the street from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I had a guy actually years ago at a party, and I was about 30 or something, and he was like being a bit leery with me, a bit sarky like that, and he didn't like me. And then suddenly it came up that I was an actor, and he looked at me. You weren't in Doctor Who, were you? I said, yeah. Midge. So I can quote the lines. He quoted the lines. Suddenly he was my best mate. He was he went from almost like he was going to fight me to I'll do anything for you.
Yeah, that's right.
It was bizarre.
Amazing.
It was bizarre. So don't worry, it's fine.
So Space Precinct then was your second brush with the world of sci-fi?
I think it must have been, yeah. That was 1994, wasn't it? So anyway, I ended up suddenly with his jelly head playing these different characters as you do different each week. Do
you remember how it felt? Because by then, I think we were all fairly established as a cast. It was a good few months into the run, wasn't it, that you joined us?
Yeah. I was coming from the outside, but...
were you ever conscious of that, or did it... I'd like to think we were a welcoming bunch.
Well, I was welcomed in. It was great, and I was there, and people would say, "Oh, you're a friend of Andy's, that's all right. I'll come in, hi, mate." And, that's great. That's how you bring the jellies alive. You've got to be really physical with it. Yeah. Don't do nothing. Yeah.
I think that's right.
Don't do nothing.
Yes.
That's it.
That's grammatically correct.
Grammatically correct. But, I mean, the only problem was when, on about day 3, when I was summoned to Gerry Anderson's office.
Right.
And I said, sorry, Gerry, I would like to see you, Mr. Anderson. I would like to see you. I said, really? I said, yeah, okay. So I was brought to his office and shown in. I went, hello. He went, first thing he said was, who are you?
Right. I
said, I'm Will. I know you. Okay. What are you doing here? I said, I've replaced Andy Dawson, who had to go off. He said, yeah, no one's put this past me. No one has told me. I don't know who you are. I've not, tipped you off or whatever. Yeah. So he said, I went, all right. And I thought, I'm about to get sacked. He said, but listen, I'm going to be keeping my eye on you. And if you're not up to it, you'll be out by the end of the week.
Right.
I didn't hear another thing.
No.
God.
Luckily.
So I was there for 15 weeks till I got a job at the National. Weirdly, I got a job at the National. And I was like, but the money's so much less at the National Theatre after 50 weeks. But I thought in the end, I should go.
So you weren't then contracted until the end of the series, obviously, because you were able to go?
No, I think because I wasn't even under any contract. But I remember just going, I'm going.
Right.
But the thing is, it was like, a quarter of the money at the National Theatre.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
A quarter of the money.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I hadn't done much, I'd been struggling. I hadn't done much. Had I done any rep? No, probably not. So I thought, I've got to take this. Even though it was small parts at National. It did lead to another job, actually, which with Lauren Bacall, actually, at Chichester after. So I thought, well, I'm now work with Lauren Bacall.
That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah. It was all right, yeah.
And do you remember then much of your impressions of working? We had 2 stages, if you remember, at Pinewood. L&M stage we were based.
I remember that. Yeah.
Do you remember your impressions of walking onto any particular set and how that felt?
Well, one set in particular I remember because Ray Winston was there, and it was a tunnel.
Yeah.
I don't know what the tunnel did. It was something a bit like the Time Tunnel.
Right.
It was Curly Tunnel.
Yeah.
And,
so this will be the episode 2 against the Rock, I think. Yeah.
It's the Rock. Anyway, I think I had a couple of characters. Is that the one where I was also the mafioso one?
Gagnon, the character's name was. That's
Gagnon.
Right. There we are.
Right, it's like he was a bit asthmatic because mafioso is the only time they let me keep my voice.
Yes.
It's just kind of from here.
Heard from your wife and kids lately, partly.
So, Gagnon, they didn't let you go home then?
Well, in a way they did. I got all my friends on the rock. It'll be like a reunion.
Some party. Sorry I'm not going to be there. But I'm glad we helped to put you and your pals together.
I guess I'll always owe you one for that, huh, Podley?
Enjoy the rock, Gagnon.
I'll do that. I hear the air's good out there.
But and I was playing a little sort of walk-on part as well.
Because the joy is, of course, playing masked characters. You could very often play 2 or 3 multiple parts in the same episode.
Exactly. So I was talking to Ray Winston. I go, Ray Winston, you're doing this. He was only doing a small part in it.
Yeah.
And he said to me, cheers, mate. I said, how's it been? Oh, man, it's tough. I can't get arrested, get a job, do you know what I mean? I'm cabbing. And I said, oh, right, yeah. He said, yeah, this is all right. I've done a couple of other things I'm going to take off. Do you know what I mean? Do you want a Benson Hedges? Let's go and have a Benson Hedges. So we sneak out of Benson Hedges, then we back waiting in the tunnel.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
Go on.
Well, Rob Youngblood was in the tunnel, and Rob
played Haldane, didn't he?
Haldane.
He was one of our lead American.
One of our
actors.
lead American actors,
Yeah.
And he had the teeth. Goofy teeth, man, So I think he played young Elvis Presley in something previously on TV, and he was waiting in the tunnel. And Ray Winston is a tough bloke. Yeah. I mean, he's a former boxer. But he's like a little, bulldog, isn't he? And whereas Rob Youngblood was worked out, 6 foot, something tall.
He had a gym. It was rumoured he had a gym in his dressing room.
Well, he had a gym at home. He had an American flag over his dressing room. He was,
all-American boy.
Anyway, and Ray Winston obviously took a dislike to him for God knows what reason. Maybe it's the American flag or something like that. And Rob Youngblood was waiting further up in the tunnel. I really only see this through the visuals, and Ray said to me, "What's he like? Looks like a bit of a..." Anyway, Rob Youngblood, suddenly his head span round. He'd had his back to us. His head span round, and he just looked and stared at Ray Winston, like that. And Ray Winston just looked at him with dead eyes and very calmly said, "Got good ears as well." And you saw Rob sort of shrink, Rob Youngblood, because this guy, Ray Winston, was going to be, mate, absolutely, and it was, that was quite a moment.
I always had the feeling that the American, there were 3 or 4 in the cast of the Americans. There was Ted Shackelford, who played the lead, famously from Knots Landing, and his wife, Nancy Paul, I think, played Sally, if you remember. Again,
she was nice, wasn't she?
She was lovely. Yeah. I always had the sense, though, particularly with Ted and Rob, that they never really quite understood, A, what they let themselves in for, and B, the sense of humour that most of the people working around them, they always felt a little bit like fishes out of water, I think.
Yeah.
But always very friendly. I mean, do you have any specific memories about any members of the cast? Or
I remember this guy played the son.
Oh, yes, Nick Klein played Matt Brogan, yes. Was
that the son of Ted Shackelford?
That's right.
Yeah, and I was playing a doctor in one.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if he was joking or not, but he said, "You're a real doctor?" And I said, they asked me because I'm a doctor, because I'm a doctor in hospital.
Yeah.
I just can't believe, wow, amazing. But he was very young, so it's possible he thought I was a real doctor. Well, I was. No, I said, what's he do now? Is he an actor?
He's no longer acting. Funnily enough, I bumped into him on Chiswick.
Maybe he's a doctor. He's probably a doctor.
Could well be. No, last I heard, he was...
Chiswick High Road?
Yeah.
Is he not American?
Probably about 15 years ago. I'm not sure he's American. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, let's see, that's my memory of him having an American accent. Maybe he was English.
And putting it on and doing the whole method thing and speaking with his accent in between takes, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I think he's travelling the world now and just sort of becoming more spiritually enlightened, I think.
I can see him being spiritual.
Right.
Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever then have the chance to appear as yourself without a mask? Because Rob Thurtle, if you remember, and also Wayne Forrester also kind of played cameos.
I did, and I was kind of dubbed. But actually, I'd rather, because I had about 2 lines as me dubbed.
Yes.
And so I'd probably rather had the mask on.
Yes.
And be dubbed exactly. So I also played a character I just remembered now, Tarn Drunk.
Right.
Where I had to walk along a straight line, but I think it was in the air. The line was in the air. That was the joke, and I couldn't do it. That was quite fun.
Yeah.
But it's only a small bit.
And do you remember much about your experience of working inside or rather underneath those layers of prosthetics and what that was like?
I remember one time where I'd been left this heavy jelly head. And I was just I'd been left, and I didn't like to make a fuss.
Yeah.
And I was just half passing out. I was sweating inside this thing. And then I think I went up to somebody and said, "Is there any way this can come off?" She went, "Of course, of course." And then I think they did get off. They were asking, "Can you just stay in it a bit longer?" Yeah. What was horrible was eating lunch through it had stick A on the bottom half, had to stay on, didn't it? And there's all the glue and it was.
And I think by the time you joined us, that it was probably getting on towards summer, was it? Do you remember what time of year that was?
I think it must have been. It wasn't cold because I was coming in on a motorbike. I bought a motorbike for the very purpose of getting in because I knew how crowded it was in the mornings. I also didn't drive a car. So a motorbike was the best way to get to Pinewood. Yeah. Funny enough, I came just past there on the way here today. Driving.
Yes, you might well do. Yeah. And what were your impressions of the sort of size, the scale? It famously was the most expensive, they say, TV series at the time.
Science fiction series or any series?
I think of any series. It was,
how can you say expensive? Ted Shackelford. I mean, I know he's a big star. Don't get me wrong, Ted, but.
Yes, there are many theories as to where the money actually went because I think lots of people think, well, you can't see it on screen, really. I don't know what your impressions were.
Why were they playing us so well?
I mean,
World Buyout, it's what you had to pay, was it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because it was World Buyout. It was probably being shown to the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Absolutely. And do you remember then the first time you saw the show and what your impressions were?
Yeah. I can't remember what my impressions were. I thought it was fun. Such a lovely bunch of people.
Yeah.
Lovely Simone as well.
Yes, Simone Bendix, that's right.
Didn't everyone have a crush on her?
Of course they did, yes. I was lucky because I went to drama school with her, so I knew her quite well.
You?
Yeah.
And she had a twin sister, didn't she?
She did have a twin sister, yes.
Sorry, I've gone off in a reverie. She was like the Avengers girl.
Sort of Dinah Rigg.
Dinah Rigg.
Yeah, Emma Peel.
She was like Emma Peel, wasn't she?
That's right, she was, yeah.
So I remember watching her and thinking, yeah. So nice. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was innovative. It wasn't perfect. But, you took a risk, Gerry, didn't he? He took a risk with, you could only ever praise people for taking risks and daring to fail. And, he always wanted to do something a bit more human. And this was his way in. Yeah. I mean, I think Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet, that absolute works of genius. But, of course, he was doing that because it was low budget and he really wanted to be doing things with real humans.
Yes.
But... be careful what you wish for. If he'd done that with real humans, it would never have been as good. My mate, who's a cabbie, who I go around to his house because he's approaching 60 and he's got a jukebox home cinema. Yeah. He loves everything 60s. We watch Thunderbirds together sometimes. Oh, look at this. You do a rerun when he's not watching Talking Pictures. We're not listening to T-Rex on the jukebox or watching a movie. We're watching because it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so creative. And I hope he was very proud of that at the end because there's nothing quite like it.
Well, I think there was always a sense that he had perhaps rather that his legacy was not about the puppets, as if somehow that wasn't enough.
We are our own. There's a great guy called Sam Harris who I listen to podcasts of. The podcasts. Yeah. He's a cognitive neuroscientist and he interviews people like Ricky Gervais and ex-Muslims like one called Yasmin Mohammed. Is amazing. And he said that everything in life, he also does meditation, is to do with our thoughts. Everything, we're only thought based and how we see it. So if you can just change your thoughts, you can be happy because Gerry Anderson, you did something that no one else has ever done or probably ever will do. You were at the forefront. And if you've done that with humans, it wouldn't have been the same. It would have just been another thing. Yeah. So by accident or whatever, you should be going, wow, I'm the one. This will carry on. This will carry on.
Yeah. I mean, we were sort of one of only 3 live-action series that Gerry did. So there's UFO, Space 1999 before us.
That was quite
Space
fun.
Precinct. And they do have their die-hard fans, of course. But I think in the general population, he is synonymous with the Marionette series.
Yeah.
The Thunderbirds and the Captain Scarlet and so on. So I was very pleased when I came to see you on Monday night here at the Theatre Royal in the play to look through your biography in the programme, and there is Space Precinct.
Oh, was it there?
It's there.
Great. Well, there we go.
So looking back, it was a long time ago now. How does it sort of fit in with the rest of your career? Do you still look back on it occasionally, or are you asked about it occasionally?
I'm just hoping there's going to be a second series. I'm there like a shot.
The mythical second series.
World Buyout. We're there for the mythical second series.
We came close.
Did it come close?
You came close to the second series, yes. I remember at the rap party, because of course you would have moved on by then. Did you come to the rap party?
I did come to the rap party.
We all had a note from Gerry saying scripts have been written, stages have been booked.
I can't remember that, really. Maybe I didn't get that. Maybe I wasn't privy to that. Maybe I wasn't on that in a sense. I did come to a rap party.
Yeah. So it still looms occasionally in your life and career, would you say?
Well, at Doctor Who conventions, when I do them, they do tend to ask about that occasionally. So, it looms, not large, but it's always a fond time. Doctor Who was the first ever, so that is just fantastic and such a great part. Great fun. But it was everyone was so nice. It was such fun, even though I can't remember.
Yes, of course.
Three-quarters of the names of people.
Well, I always feel that. I mean, meeting you again now, and as I said earlier, I bumped into Wayne Forrester again today.
Lovely Wayne,
Yeah, and actually what's quite nice is that it does feel like we have a certain camaraderie, like we have a select band of brothers who survived.
Yeah, and even though I was only in for 15 weeks, I think, I'm there. Because it was a lot of laughing, a lot of joking, and the makeup guys are amazing, and it's all going together. Yeah, it's great.
A lot of early morning starts, I remember. And a lot of long days.
Long days, and riding my bike on 2 hours sleep, it was not good. Don't ride a motorbike on the North Circular in 2 hours sleep. I didn't have an accident, but I could have.
So, how long are you, Boris Johnson? How long do you have left on the tour here?
Just bring it back. Boris, do you want to come back in?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yes.
Come on in and...
Thank you very much. Yes, well, I mean, listen, we've got to... is that all right, Will? Listen, I'm trying to do two jobs at the moment. Be Prime Minister and, also do this play. We're carrying on next week. Newcastle. Yes. Fantastic. Home of Sunderland Football Club. After that, we're off to Salford. No, Guildford first. Yeah. Guildford, near Salford. Yeah. No, it's not. Then Salford, and then Eastbourne.
Okay.
Eastbourne, famous for Beachy Head.
Boris Johnson and Will Barton.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Just before you go, Will, people do often like to get in touch with people who appear on the podcast. Are you on Facebook or Twitter, or do you have a website, or anywhere people can get in touch? Or do you not?
I don't have a website, but I am on Facebook. I am on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for a few years, but I still don't get it.
Okay.
I don't understand
What's your Twitter handle so people can...
Barton 67, I think. And I'm on Facebook, but I'm on Facebook. People want to. Yeah. I don't want to have 2,000 friends on Facebook. No, I've got so many Doctor Who sci-fi friends. Then I can't have any more. I can't have.
You can only have so many friends.
I've got enough Doctor Who fans and maybe some Space Precinct ones. But if you want to send a message or talk, it's not a problem. I think I'm under Will Barton on Facebook. I think very original name. Exactly.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Excellent. Cheers. Thanks very much.
So,
what a nice chat. Both of them.
Both of them, exactly. Yeah, thanks very much to Will Barton for giving me some of his time in his dressing room for that.
And Boris Johnson.
Yeah, and Boris Johnson, of course. That's right. Yeah, interesting. So many times we talk about how Gerry was willing to take a chance on people and sort of pluck them, off the street almost in many cases to work on their productions. Obviously in terms of, cast and so on. But people like Terry Adlam talk a lot about, literally pitching up and saying, you've got a job, But interesting to hear the other side of the coin there, with Gerry actually saying, who are you? What are you doing here?
You might not have a job actually after this.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
How funny. But yeah. And Ray Winston, of course, down on his uppers. Or uppers on his downies.
Yeah, that's right. But happy to be honest in his opinions in the face of
exactly.
Anyway, I'm really keen to try and get Rob Youngblood on the podcast.
Oh wow,
he's got out of acting, hasn't he? He's into sort of lifestyle stuff now.
I mean, he's reachable on Facebook and Twitter and so on. So
I might give him a try.
Okay,
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Dickie, for doing that interview as well.
You're very welcome.
That was great. So from the stage to the stars.
Oh, right.
Next week's interview will be part 1 of an interview with David Parker, who is director of the European Space Agency.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
It's quite a flip.
Yeah, isn't it just?
From theatre to
that's
space.
A wonderful thing. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah,
very nice.
Great. So he's the guy that sent Thunderbird 3 to the International Space Station.
Yeah, that lovely picture that we had last year.
Exactly, yeah. So we're going to have a chat about all things space, all things Anderson, and everything in between.
Great.
really rather looking forward to, and I hope you are too.
Yeah, I should,
Podsteron
Coco.
and Richard.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, talking of which, do you remember last time I asked people, have they caught up with the latest podcast? And I asked people what their favourite podcast was as well. And this is from, I think it's from Megan. Yes, it is. Over on Twitter, she hashtagged us Gerry Anderson Podcast. You can tag me, Richard N. James, or him, I'm Jamie Anderson, and we'll see your tweets. And Megan tweeted, favourite podcasts, Gary Newman and Shane Rimmer. Now that struck me. That's really good because about as diverse as you could possibly get, isn't it? With our guests on the bottom of the podcast here, people who've actually intimately been involved in many of Gerry's productions to people who are sort of uber fans. That's fantastic. And then she said, yes, I go back and listen to previous podcasts, sometimes 5 or more times.
Wow. I'm so sorry, Megan.
Yes, but then she says, sadly, I'm now 7 weeks behind as I'm away this week seeing Queen and Adam Lambert. Which is fair enough, I think.
Yeah, I think they'll probably make up for our absence in time.
That's right. And over on Facebook, Ian Jacklin spotted David Graham, a.k.a. Parker, of course, in Thunderbirds, in the children's sci-fi drama Time Slip from 1971. So there we are. Anderson faces cropping up all over the place. Recently
revived by Big Finish, I believe.
Is that right?
Time Slip, yeah.
Did they get David back into it, I wonder?
I don't believe so. But they've definitely got some original cast members there.
So. Great. Very good.
Yeah. Oh, and Sarah Sutton, I believe.
Not an original cast member, I'm assuming.
No.
Right.
She's not playing Nissa either.
No.
She's playing somebody new. But,
I see.
Anyway, I'm digressing from the worlds of Anderson. Sorry. Would you like to return to the worlds of Anderson with a bit of Christelle's Randomiser?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd love nothing more. Here he is.
Great.
No, I've checked all the circuits right the way back, Marina. It's definitely a genuine selection, so I think we're probably stuck with it. Oh, hello everyone. Well, I'm afraid it's not good news today. You see, we've already made the selection, and unfortunately, it's another clip show episode. Yes, I know. And there's no way to really sugarcoat that in a particularly entertaining introduction, beyond giving you all a chance to guess which one it might be, I suppose. Well, here goes. Could it be The Birthday from Joe 90? Might it be Mars Monsters from Terrorhawks? Or could it be...
Nobody expects the Inquisition!
Well, they might now.
I know! I didn't want to say anything. I just wanted to try and ignore your crass mistake.
It's not my mistake. The randomizer made the choice.
It makes it all seem so stupid.
Yes, I know, but still, considering recent events, it would be really nice to hear Terry Jones introduce this one. Can we do that?
I couldn't do that.
Oh, go on, please.
Nobody, expects. Nobody expects the Inquisition. In fact, those who do...
Stop there.
Yeah, look, why don't you just tell our listeners what they can expect from this episode?
Such diverse elements as fear, surprise...
it is a clip show, remember?
Oh, God, just pretend, for God's sake!
Okay, yeah, well, here's Captain Scarlet.
Nice red uniform. Oh, damn.
Leading the fight, one man fate has made indestructible. His name, Captain Scarlet.
Well, as I said in the randomizer for Implicado, we've got to get through all those Protectors episodes, and we also have to get through a fair few clip show episodes. I think we've done one of these before on the randomizer, which was... Anyway, we're opening with a scene in a restaurant. Lots of puppets around here. Captain Blue and Scarlet are...
Did you enjoy the meal, sir?
Having a meal?
Yes, it was fine, thanks. Will there be anything else?
Nothing for me.
Just coffee, please. Black.
We don't know what the context for this meal is, but I am actually recording this on Valentine's Day, so I'm going to assume it's a Valentine's Day treat for one or other of them who's been stood up by whichever of the angels they're dating this week. And we're getting a lot of footage of this guy playing the piano being watched by the Robert Mitchum puppet.
Good pianist.
Very relaxing.
Because that's what you want the opening of a Gerry Anderson episode to be, nice and relaxing and sleep-inducing. We don't want any of this action stuff. Blue raised his hand to his head there.
Kind of strange.
Brief appearance of what looked like a puppeteer's thumb holding the arm in place. Always fun to spot things like that. Yeah, poor old Captain Blue's feeling a little bit under the weather. Presumably it was the coffee. And now we have a very odd situation where Scarlet's gone to get their coats.
Adam?
Which, incidentally, are their winter gear coats from Shadow of Fear, but Blue's gone. Somehow. in the space of about 3 seconds, he's just disappeared. Very mysterious, and nobody seems to have reacted to that. I mean, how did they get him out of there? Obviously, this is the Mr. Ons at work, but how did they manage to get him out of the restaurant with nobody making a fuss at all?
The members of Spectrum.
Were all the staff and the diners Mr. Ons? I mean, that's the only way I can make any of it make sense. Oh dear. Anyway, so, Traitor in Spectrum. We have been here before, though. I think there was a little episode called Traitor. Dealt with a traitor in Spectrum. And as with whichever episode it was... Oh, it was Security Hazard, wasn't it? That was the first flashback episode we did. I am going to try not to talk over the flashback segments of episodes we haven't seen yet, which in this episode is 2 out of 3. We've seen one of them, which was Big Ben Strikes Again. We haven't yet seen the other 2.
Don't you know?
Yes. In cloud-based control.
Ah, so here's Blue, still in his dinner gear.
Spectrum Intelligence.
Being interrogated by this,
Who are you?
This man who claims to be Spectrum Intelligence. But we all know him better as Sam Loover from Joe 90, and I believe this puppet... although
I've been here on duty.
The Sam Loover head was sculpted for Captain Scarlet. I think maybe the first appearance was the SHEF commander guy in .783.
What are you doing here?
I think this is a new sculpt that was created for Joe 90.
Prove it.
That was used in this episode, while the new Sam Loover puppet was
telling you.
This is a new Sam Loover puppet. And the old Sam Loover head, the SHEF commander, was being used on the Joe 90 set at the time because they were filming the first episode of Joe 90 while they're filming this.
Than anyone. I know everyone on Spectrum.
Isn't that interesting? Aren't you glad you know that? Doesn't that just point to the lack of interesting stuff I have to say about this episode?
Right, if this is some sort of game, I'll play along. Spectrum's job is to counter the Mr. Ons. One of our first assignments was to try and save the City of London.
Splendid. Tell me more.
Well, we failed.
Mr. Ons had threatened to destroy it.
Here we go. Big Ben Strikes Again. This is one we've already seen, so I can talk about this. Now, I first saw this episode, as is the case for most of the Gerry Hansen shows, I've mentioned this before, on the BBC Two repeat runs in the 90s, but the BBC, for some reason, decided not to show this episode the first time they showed Captain Scarlet. They showed up to Attack on Cloud Base and then stopped. I guess somebody thought this one just wasn't worth bothering with. But then they repeated the show the following year, and
what's the difference?
They started with this episode and then ran through the whole series again. So we had a run of 33 episodes, not 32, from the Inquisition, going all the way through the series and ending with the Inquisition again. I'd be interested to know why they held back one episode. I know the BBC repeats were always a bit of a sort of... They always started strongly and then they sort of just kind of tailed off. I think their first run of Stingray, they ended with about 10 episodes unshown, and then they bumped them to... I think Sunday lunchtimes they ended up being shown. Obviously UFO and Space 1999 were something of a disaster, and Joe 90 got bumped to Saturday mornings. I just don't know why they would show all the episodes of Captain Scarlet except this one, unless, somebody at the BBC just thought, why does anyone need to see this? They've seen all these episodes already. It's still nice to see this sequence from Big Ben Strikes Again. It's very exciting still. And I'm still... Oh, that's right. Yes, I was... last time we were here, I was geeking out over all these store names.
He's going too fast. He's not going to make that next turn.
And here we have, of course, Captain Blue is relating these events to the Spectrum Intelligence guy. Obviously, this is all stuff that he wasn't around to be witness to, which I always find fascinating in clip shows, and I think it happens again later in this one. What is Blue saying to the guy? And then the truck driver buried his head in his hands. The truck kept on going, and then it turned right. Although I suppose, actually we can get some insight into how Captain Blue might describe this, because this episode is one of the ones that were narrated by Ed Bishop in 1993, which you can now find on the Captain Scarlet 50th anniversary set from Big Finish. I mean, I'm making excuses for a clip show. It's all I can really do at this point. And it's a shame as well, because I kind of like the basic idea of the abandoned cloud base, seemingly abandoned cloud base, and Blue having to prove his identity. I think there's a core of something there more interesting than this clip show, which ultimately, in this segment...
The situation was explosive. An atomic bomb had vanished somewhere in the city of London. The whole of Spectrum was put on red alert.
Very interesting. But so
right, so Blue just stops telling the story there. The guy says, yeah, well, that's interesting, but, you know...
Signal was used for the red alert.
You're from Spectrum Intelligence. You know I can't tell you that.
So no evidence of his own involvement with the case. No recollection of how the case was resolved.
I'm Adam Svensson, Captain Blue.
Yes, that is Captain Blue's real name.
Although I've got two here. There's a CGI one as well.
What do you know about them?
Yeah, I don't feel that many of the clips seen in this episode were
from this file
particularly well chosen.
On the assignment to destroy the Mistron complex on the moon.
This is a good choice because it's something really strange and really out of the ordinary, and it's also something that Blue was involved in.
About it.
Big Ben strikes again.
How harm can it do?
Obviously he was there to resolve it, but he wasn't there for that whole sequence that he narrated.
We had till midnight to investigate the Mistron complex and get clear before it was blown to pieces.
Captain Scarlet is below the lunar horizon. You cannot contact him. He will die in Crater 101.
Oh, and there was a little moment there after we came back from the advert break. You just get a scene as we do that bomb back to the action of Crater 101. You get a shot of Green working on the moonmobile, and then suddenly you're seeing the lunar tank. And I was expecting when this came out on Blu-ray that would be fixed, if I can make enough air quotes to do that word justice, but I'm very glad it wasn't, because I like seeing little things like that in there. I've never been a huge fan of fixes or corrections. It's like, no, it was there at the time, and
are you sure, Controller?
Obviously it wasn't meant to be, but nobody who
the detonator for 10 of
didn't work on that show has any right to come along later and say, actually, we're gonna fix that.
No, he's out.
It's just such a bugbear of mine. It really irritates me.
Fast enough to get there before that bomb explodes.
An unmanned rocket. Could it work?
This is it. The power source.
And I'm sure kids in the 60s would have liked seeing, in particular, this episode again. It does make me wonder the selection process that went into choosing these clips, because I noticed that, at least I think this is right, Tony Barwick wrote this one. He also wrote this episode, I think, and Big Ben Strikes Again. The only one in this episode that he didn't write was the next clip segment, which will be the trap. I just wonder if he was drawing on, like, you know, I like that episode of mine and I like this episode of mine. Or if he consulted with anyone to say, you know, what do we think would be the best choice of episodes to fit in these?
What was that? I don't know. I'll go and find out.
And here we come to although I said this is a really good choice for a segment in a clip show episode, if you absolutely have to do a clip show.
Unmanned space.
Here's an old
CB-29
section of this particular flashback.
6. But why an obsolete CB-29? Unless...
maybe it's some kind of message.
Or a warning?
The Lucky Charm. And what was it?
Captain Scarlet.
Yes, Miss Nolan?
I'd like you to take this. It's a lucky charm. I'm not really superstitious, but please take it.
To Linda Nolan. The CB-29 Neptune probe, July 10th, 2058.
We made it. Ahead of schedule.
Yeah, we have to have a flashback inserted into the flashback segment in order to make sense of what's going on here. And, you know, it works, but I just find it strange that you pick an episode where that's necessary.
SIG.
I don't think that's like a point against using Crater 101 in a clip show, because it is suitably eerie and alien. Obviously, it looks much better in full HD colour than it would have done on a little black and white TV set back in the 60s. But even so, it's a good choice.
I'm right, Adam. Do as I say.
Spectrum is green. Captain Scarlet just escaped, and the Mystron complex was completely destroyed.
This mission was fully reported in the newspapers and on TV. Anyone with a little imagination could have told that story.
Why did you tell that story on TV?
Possibly.
That, of all the things Spectrum had done, infiltrating the Mystron complex on the moon, that would seem to be the most...
have to do to convince you.
...security-worthy incident they were ever involved with. And yet, we'll tell everyone. Put it on TV.
If you are Captain Blue, it shouldn't be so difficult to prove it.
Wait a minute. This should prove my identity beyond all reasonable doubt. There was a conference at Glencarry Castle.
A conference in Scotland?
To the press. But as it is only Class C security, I'll tell you.
Oh, that's interesting. Go on.
And a conference that Captain Blue wasn't even directly involved with.
Delegates to the conference.
To begin with, because Colonel White in his wisdom assigned only one person to deal with security for the conference. And I do like... I said I like the setup of Blue alone on Cloudbase being interrogated by someone. I also like the fact that it is Blue. It's not Scarlet who gets to star in this final episode. And it is a really nice dynamic between him and David Healy. And Scarlet's in Glengarry Castle. I think we saw one of these suits of armour next to the pianist in the restaurant where they were dining at the beginning. It's more fascinating facts, because I'm so hard up for material to talk about here.
Tomorrow morning, on the stroke of 10, here in this room, the entire Supreme Command of the World Air Force will be wiped out.
So, Captain, tell me how this proves your identity beyond all reasonable doubt.
Take up your position in the hall.
I just don't get it. And we also... We've got Scarlet strapped to a chair. Remember, he was later moved down to the dungeon with Symphony, and there was a whole painfully long sequence of them having to escape. But here, somehow, off-screen, he just escapes, and he's here to kill everybody. Again...
What's the matter?
I think maybe they spent too long on Crater 101. They didn't give themselves enough time to adequately set up this one. And here's Blue for his minimal involvement with this story, which was to turn up in an SPV basically after everything had already fallen apart.
This is Captain Blue.
See, that proves my identity beyond all reasonable doubt.
Captain Scarlet, the Magnacopter's pinned down.
I know.
And again, Blue said that this story was never released to the press, which... I don't even want to know about how the world of the press in Captain Scarlet works. The press in our own world is silly, but why was the Lunar Complex mission fully documented all over the place, but this one, I mean, surely the destruction of Glengarry Castle would have at least merited a tiny little box in the local paper at the very least.
Jordan!
Lots of important delegates and the destruction of a piece of Scottish history with the destruction of this castle, but no, apparently they thought nobody was interested in this little adventure.
The Magnacopter's clear. Let him have it.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I expect. How else I would have done this setup of Blue and this guy interrogating each other, but I think there's the potential for something a bit prisonery, maybe, to be going on here, instead of just the clips.
Flown off to safety. The Mysterons had failed.
Thus proving my identity.
Interesting incident, but it doesn't convince me you are Captain Blue.
Oh no. Tell him about that time you went to Australia.
Tell me the Spectrum cipher code. Prove to me you are Captain Blue.
And again, I don't think they establish what the cipher code really is, what the importance of this is.
There is a likeness, but plastic surgery can work once.
Spectrum have never really been all that on the ball regarding security.
Fingerprints. Check my fingerprints.
Captain Magenta has probably auctioned off his cipher codes on eBay for a a bottle of Tizer or something.
I've had enough. I'm getting out of here.
So Blue has finally twigged that something's not right here. And here's a Mr. man with a syringe and a gun. Ooh, syringe of purple stuff. Don't want a syringe of purple stuff.
The hypodermic contains XK.
So what's Blue going to do? Well, he's going to take the only way out he thinks he's got left.
Go take a walk.
He's edging towards that observation tube. Because he would rather die than give over these precious codes. And he's going to do it. Out the window. And the episode just fell apart. I'm sorry, this scene, I don't know what it is. I think it's the fact that you clearly see the puppeteer's hand shoving the puppet through the window.
Get clear, Captain Blue.
And that you see him land on what is presumably the real backdrop of the cloud-based windows. Then you get the obvious little model Captain Blue. Then you cut back to the puppet just sat there sort of blankly staring, as if he's like broken the reality of his own universe. I genuinely, the first time I saw this, I thought I was seeing a puppet realising that he was a puppet in a television series. It's only for a moment, but it's so disorienting.
Fine. Were they Mr. agents?
Yes. It took us a few hours to locate you, but I'm glad we were in time.
How did you locate him? How did you get onto this?
Madam, you can tell me all about it. Back on the real cloud base.
And how did he know that there was a fake cloud base in that warehouse? Scarlet was in on it too. He was in on it the whole time. Now Blue has to go on the run, never knowing who he can trust, never knowing who his real allies are. Or it was just a rushed, kind of clumsy ending to the episode. And indeed, the series as a whole, I believe this was the last episode made and is generally the last episode shown. And in both instances, it's just like a big pile of so what, which I know a lot of the Anderson clip shows are, but for Captain Scarlet, you really, I think more than any other show, maybe Space 1999 as well, you really want to see an ending, something resolved one way or another, regarding the war with the Mysterons, and it's just, no, we're not gonna deal with any of that, which is why I, even though we haven't covered that episode on the Randomiser yet, I generally tend to think sort of Attack on Cloudbase is the real series finale, and I just sort of stick my fingers in my ears at the it was all a dream ending, because even though everybody died in Attack on Cloudbase, it's far more satisfying an ending to the whole series than this just mediocre clip show. You know, a good framing device potentially could have led to something great, but sadly didn't.
Boom, 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 boom.
We cannot get away from Captain Scarlet.
No.
That's 3 weeks on the trot.
Yes.
Well, not in the Randomiser, but...
yeah, but that's okay.
Yes, I know. So, the Inquisition, a traitor, yet again, another traitor storyline.
Yeah. And it's always the person that you most suspect, of course. It's always the newbie, essentially, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Someone fairly obvious.
That's right.
Another mention of 10th of July, Richard, which I believe is a very important date, not only in the Captain Scarlet universe, but also in your universe.
This was my mum's birthday, yes, that's right.
There you go.
Yeah. Perhaps she knew. No, that wouldn't be right.
Is she a
Perhaps her
Spectrum
parents
agent?
knew. She might. Maybe she's a traitor. Bum, 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 bum.
And what did Chris say at the end there? How did he describe it?
What was it?
The ending?
A big... What was it?
Big pile of so what?
Wow.
Ending.
I mean, that's harsh, isn't it?
That is great, yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, do you want to go back and do better, Chris? Get in a time machine and go rewrite it?
Doesn't pull his punches, does he? That's good.
No, but they can't, have perfection every single time, can you? Otherwise, you wouldn't even realise what perfection was.
That's what we tell ourselves, isn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, that is what we tell ourselves every episode.
Yeah. But thanks for that, Chris. Very good. Enjoyed that very much. Like a bit of Captain Scarlet.
Who knows what will come next week, because it's random.
It's true. It always is. Now, I've just got one final email, Jamie, that was sent in via podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. This is from Bill Ronald, who says, about 5 years ago... No, I tell a lie. It was on their Facebook group. Bill posted this about 5 years ago. He said, I was admitted to hospital in Italy. What does this have to do with Gerry Anderson, he asks. Well, I kept a diary of my experiences within the hospital, and this is what I wrote at the time. I must mention the X-ray procedure, he wrote. I would say Italian healthcare is about 25 to 30 years behind our NHS, which I will never again criticise and will defend its retention to my last breath. The equipment was ancient, still using photographic plates. I stood on a platform and was gestured to grasp two handles at waist height. The platform then rose in the air and I was turned horizontally. The picture was taken and I was then lowered to the floor back to a vertical position. I felt I had just gone through the procedure for boarding Thunderbird 2. FAB. Thanks for that, Bill. Yeah, fun.
Nice.
That sounds like a ride. Let alone an X-ray.
It does. Yeah. If only X-rays were more fun.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? Now, Chris gave us his review of Captain Scarlet there, a big heap of so what. We've had a review, Jamie, from Jamie90, who left this on Podchaser, and I think he might be worthy of a prize for this, because he's referring to the last podcast, podcast or two ago, where our Fab Fact featured some rather naughty words. He says, interesting as ever, with the colourful language of Rudebert Vaughan and Nairi Dock Worker. Which I think is rather nice. So if you've got a little something to send to Jamie90...
Yeah, Jamie90, who of course is Simon Allen.
But I had no idea. Of course it is. Now it all makes sense now.
Of course, with those wonderful puns.
Those wonderful puns, yeah, great. Well, Simon Allen has a myriad of pseudonyms, doesn't he? Doesn't make life easy for us.
No, but Simon, we've done some detective work and we know who you are. So, yes, drop us a line with your postal address and we'll send you a little something.
Yeah, great.
And I promise it won't be rude.
No, it might be a book of gags, though, perhaps.
To give him more
Is there
material.
a book of Gerry Anderson-related gags?
There is not.
Terry
Adlam. The closest there is. Terry's done a book of jokes.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can always get that. But yeah, I'll tell you what. If you've got a Gerry Anderson-related gag,
right,
please do send them in. We'll collate them and go through a few of them in a future podcast.
Okay, fine.
Send them in, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Don't share them on the Facebook group because we don't want to give them away.
No, true. Yeah,
we want to keep them as a surprise for the audience and see if we can have them rolling in the aisles.
Oh, well, we'll see.
Is that the phrase?
That's certainly a phrase, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. If you want us to do a review, we'll also possibly pick you out as a prize winner in an upcoming podcast.
Yep.
So leave it on the podcast app or website of your choice, be that Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or Acast or Overcast or
Broadcast,
Podbean, Podbay, Castbox, Pod
Fruitcake,
Podcake,
Flannel Trumpet, Parsnip Bin. That's right. Yeah.
Any of those locations, just do the review and send us a screenshot and we may pick you to be a winner of a future one.
Yeah, we may.
I bet you now find that, what was it, Parsnip Bin?
Yeah, flanneltrumpet.com
is actually a real one.
Well, if it isn't, I'm setting it up now.
Rich is setting it up immediately. Okay, that surely must be enough of us. We've rambled on and said nonsense words and phrases.
Yeah.
Is there anything else before we leave?
No, I think that's it, Jamie.
Good, okay.
Phew.
We're all breathing a sigh of relief, not just you and I, but the listeners too.
That's true.
We'll go away and see you, speak to you, be in your ears next week for Pod 90.
Yes, see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Pod 90.
Pod 90, I know.
Sounds a bit Joe 90, doesn't it?
It does. Oh, do you think we should make it a Joe 90 special?
Pod 90.
Okay, well, I'll look into that. Now, I have just looked up flanneltrumpet.com.
Oh dear, have you? Have you done an incognito window?
Yeah,
I hope so.
I have, yes. And I shall wipe my browsing history when I finish.
You'll have to.
I'm afraid Safari cannot open the page because the server cannot be found.
Okay, well that probably means it doesn't exist. So.
Yes, but if I were just to Google, for example, flannel trumpet,
right?
See, okay, showing results for flannel trumpet. Well, okay, so there is such a thing as a Michael Kors flannel trumpet midi skirt, charcoal in colour, that someone's posted on Pinterest. So maybe that's it. Yeah, flannel trumpet midi skirt. I've started a new craze, Jamie. Maybe it's only a matter of time before they appear in the Gerry Anderson store.
I can't wait to see them there, alongside a parsnip bin.
Yeah, yes.
Although Google has suggested that actually, did I mean parsnip wine or parsnip beer?
No, I meant parsnip bin.
Yeah, well, I have told it, but it's quite insistent. So I'm going to go look up parsnip wine.
Right.
You go and get yourself a
flannel trumpet
midi skirt.
Yes, thank you.
And we can compare and contrast next week.
I'll see you then.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?